Welcome back to Echo Mind Documentaries. If this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to like, comment, and share, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Today's video is about a woman who shaped culture with her hands and transformed tradition into global art. We're stepping into a world of clay, fire, and timeless creativity to uncover the life and legacy of one of Africa's most celebrated potters, Ladi Kwali. From a small village to international recognition, her story is one of talent, resilience, and cultural pride. This is not just the story, this is the legacy of a woman who turned earth into history. In a small Nigerian village, a woman sat with her hands in the earth and created something that would one day sit in the greatest museums on the planet. No one taught her the rules of fine art. She made her own. They called her a village potter. The world called her a master. Ladi Kwali did not chase recognition. Recognition found her because her work demanded it. She was born in Kwali, a small town in what is today the Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria. The year was around 1925, though no record was made of it. In those days, a girl's birth was not written in books. It was written in her mother's hands and her mother's mother before her. Pottery was not a craft she chose. It chose her. Among the Gwari people, the art of making pots was passed from woman to woman, like breath, like blood, like memory. By the time Ladi Kwali was old enough to press her palms into clay, she already carried generations inside her. She did not use a wheel. She never needed one. Her technique was ancient, a method of coiling and pinching that her people had refined over centuries. She would roll long ropes of clay and build upward, layer by layer, her hands reading the material the way a singer reads sound. There was no machinery, no studio, no title. There was only fire, earth, water, and will. The pots she made were not simple. They were alive. She carved into their surfaces the shapes of animals, the spiral of water, the geometry of the natural world around her. Lizards climbed the shoulders of her vessels, fish curved along their necks. Every mark she made was intentional. Every form carried meaning. In 1950, a British potter named Michael Cardew arrived in Nigeria as part of a government ceramics program in Abuja. He had been sent to establish a pottery training center, and he began looking for local talent to elevate and collaborate with. When he encountered the work of Ladi Kwali, he stopped. He understood immediately that what he was seeing was not folkcraft, it was mastery. Cardew invited Kwali to work at the Abuja Pottery, and she agreed. It was there that two worlds met, not as teacher and student in the traditional sense, but as two craftspeople who understood clay deeply and differently. Cardew introduced Kwali to the potter's wheel and to high-fire kiln techniques. She absorbed these quickly, but she never abandoned her roots. She brought her Gwari traditions into this new space, and what emerged was something neither European training nor African tradition could have produced alone. Her work began to travel. It was exhibited in Britain, in Germany, across Europe and beyond. Collectors who had never heard of Kwali or of Gwari pottery found themselves standing before her vessels in gallery spaces, unable to look away. There was a quality in her work that defied the language of Western art criticism. Critics reached for words like primal and elemental, but those words were not large enough. What they were responding to was the presence of a complete world inside each piece. In 1963, Ladi Kwali was awarded the Member of the Order of the British Empire, a recognition that was extraordinary for any artist of her time, and doubly so for an African woman who had come from a village with no formal education. She received it not because she had learned to make art the way Europeans made it, but because she had shown the world that the art she already made was worthy of the highest attention. She became a face on Nigerian currency. The 50 kobo note carried her image, a woman at work, her hands in motion. It was a statement. Nigeria was saying to its people and to the world that this kind of work, a woman's hands in clay, the knowledge passed through generations without a classroom, was something to be honored and remembered. Ladi Kwali continued to work. She did not retire into recognition. She sat and she built and she fired her pots until her body no longer allowed it. She passed away in 1984, but what she left behind refused to be still. Her work lives in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. It lives in private collections across Europe and America. It lives in the national memory of Nigeria, and it lives in the hands of every young African artist who has learned that the knowledge carried in their own culture is not a starting point to move away from. It is the destination. What Ladi Kwali understood, perhaps without ever framing it this way, was that art does not require permission. It does not require a certificate or a building or a name that someone else gave it. It requires honesty. It requires devotion. It requires the courage to press your hands into the earth and say, "This is what I know, and what I know is enough." She was not trying to be global. She was being deeply, completely herself, and that is exactly why the world came to her. The lesson of Ladi Kwali is not only about pottery. It is about what happens when a person refuses to diminish what they were born knowing, when they carry their inheritance without apology, when they work with the same seriousness whether or not anyone is watching. Africa has always made things of beauty. It has always held knowledge that the wider world is still learning to understand. Ladi Kwali did not introduce African art to the world. She reminded the world that it had always been there, waiting to be seen by those willing to look with honest eyes. Her hands are still, but her work still speaks.